This video will talk about the proposal paper and what our goal for this last major assignment is. You are going to use argumentation and imagination to potentially improve your community. This may be related to your group recommendation report, but I would prefer that it wouldn't be. I'd like you to think of a project, something that you have seen in your home community or in your academic studies or even something your family is concerned with. And I'd like you to propose a solution to that problem. Now, the problem must be something that has been written about by experts. I need you to back up what you say is the reason this solution should be adopted with the testimony of experts. And that's why we're spending this week talking about sources from the library. Again, I want you to prioritize sources from the library. You must have 5 of them. And I'm going to ask you to find the 5 books, articles, or videos from the library this week, and then you will work them up into an annotated bibliography, which means you have to read them carefully and find bits of information, quotations, facts, statistics that will help you make your case that this solution to the problem you've identified is a useful one. So you've already submitted a proposal where you talk about this problem. And if you haven't, go back to week 11 and do that, please, because you need to do that first. I give you the option to write a straight proposal, that is to say, something that could be done. This must be something that you actually can take a small step at least towards. You cannot say we will have world peace. That's too big, and it's going to be very difficult to identify a way to make that happen. What you could do, however, is to identify a small step towards world peace and argue for that small piece. As I say here in the proposal description, you could argue that every college student who's getting a degree needs to spend time abroad in order to understand other cultures and understand that the rest of the world does not think like us. As I'm thinking of this now, it occurs to me that we could also say it could either be a study abroad project or it could be service in the military, and that either one of those would count for time spent overseas. Anyway, but again, your proposal would explain why that is desirable and how this idea of getting people in touch with people from other cultures would help lead to world peace down the road. And you would find sources from the library to help explain that to your readers. So, what is the essay going to look like? You're going to introduce it, a standard introductory paragraph where you grab the reader's interest, and you're going to explain the context for this proposal. I neglected to mention that the other thing you could choose to do is to write a satiric proposal. Jonathan Swift, the author of Gulliver's Travels that many of you know about, wrote a devastating article called A Modest Proposal that is often anthologized and that students often are expected to read. I didn't require it for the course this time. A Modest Proposal is Jonathan Swift's proposal that Irish people should sell their babies to make stew for the English overlords because, as he finally says, the English lords are eating the Irish people out of house and home anyway, so why shouldn't they just go ahead and eat them literally? It's a disgusting proposal. It's meant to be disgusting. It's over the top. Nobody believes that it would be taken seriously, but it's an important proposal in that it highlights the difficulties of life for Irish people in Ireland uh, in that time period, the 1720s. And Swift is trying to get across the idea that by making this outrageous proposal, he makes everybody come to terms or come to see that the conditions for the poor in Ireland are unacceptable. So you may choose the outrageous proposal, but the same rules apply. It must be specific. I mean, Jonathan Swift's proposal was specific. You must, you know, that the idea that Irish people should sell their babies to get out of debt and to make the money for the taxes that the English overlords are demanding. So that was a very specific proposal, albeit a very disgusting one. So you introduce and explain the context for your proposal. You make the proposal. For example, here's a sample. All persons wishing to adopt pets should have the option to pay the adoption fee or to donate 50 hours of service to the animal shelter before they adopt. So, the rationale might be new pet owners need experience with animals before they bring one home so they don't mistreat their new animal. Also, this will provide more volunteers at the shelter to take care of the animals. And since many West Virginia families are too poor to pay shelter fees but would make good pet owners, it will get more animals out of the shelter and into good homes. You need to support your rationale by developing at least 3 of the suggested means of argument from the list of 9 ways to argue for anything. Make sure that you give a warrant, an explanation of how the evidence supports your proposal for every fact or statistic you use. I'm going to switch now to a different document, and this is in your um, it isn't. I'm going to take a look at 9 ways to argue anything, just right below the proposal description. And we're going to open this and turn it over, I hope. Can I do that? Doesn't look like I can here. Let me download it and I can do that. There we go. And here I can turn it around. All right, so you can see it now. And this, I've used this page for a long time, and it seems to me to highlight almost all of the arguments you ever are likely to make. These are arguments you can put forward in some form or fashion uh, to to explain that your proposal is worthy. You could argue from economic benefit. How is this going to make money or save money? Social benefit. How will this help society? Potential individual benefit. What might be the effect on individuals, perhaps certain individuals, people with autism, um, children, elderly, a particular group in society, or individual people, just individuals. Moral grounds. This one is the idea this is the right thing to do, whether it costs money or not. it's just the right thing to do. And you would cite moral authorities, perhaps the Bible, the Ten Commandments. The U.S. Constitution is a moral authority. So you would cite one of those authorities to support your argument that something should be done on moral grounds. Argument from possibility. It hasn't been done, but it could be done. And you can predict what the possible outcome might be. An argument from history. This has been done in the past and it was successful. An argument from probability. It is likely that this would have a good effect. It has been done in other settings and the effect was good. It's likely that it would be good here. An argument from cause and effect. It makes logical sense that if you have this cause, you will get that effect. And finally, argument by example. You know of an example where this solution you proposed worked. Maybe a small example, and you want to export something that was done in West Africa to the United States, and you think it could also work here. And so you cite the example of what was done in West Africa as an example of why it would work here. All right, so this list of 9 arguments is in the Blackboard space for the course. There it is, 9 ways to argue anything. And you can review it there. All right, again, going back to the proposal paper. Whoops, not that one. The proposal paper directions. Parts of the essay. You're going to use facts, evidence, and statistics from the articles you're going to find this week from library sources. You are going to pay attention also when you're looking at your sources, pay attention to facts, evidence, and statistics that they give in support of what you propose to do, but also pay attention to the arguments of the naysayers and objections to what you propose. It may be that you need to address those objections because otherwise people think you haven't really thought your proposal through. You need to think about what people of goodwill might object to in your proposal and find a way to smooth over the gap or take their consideration seriously and explain how your proposal could mitigate a problem. All right. Okay, so please take a look at the following materials about selecting sources. You are going to be doing your sources from the library databases this week, but it's important for you to know in looking in the future at the wide world of the internet, what are some guidelines for finding useful sources when you don't have the parameters of the library to protect you. Library sources are almost certainly guaranteed to be accurate, and only you can say whether or not they're useful, but they're guaranteed to be accurate. And so that's a big help. But you need to be prepared. In other classes, you may be asked to do web searches, and you need to know what to look for, though that won't be the case here. So this is an overview of the proposal paper. Please check the resources further down the page for information about the selecting your sources from library databases.